You're listening to the Chelsea Holm podcast, where high-functioning Christian women come to lay down performance, pick up presents, and finally come home to who God created them to be. I'm Chelsea, the wife coach, mindset trainer, and your guide back to God-first living, soul-deep peace, and restored connection in your marriage, your motherhood, and identity. If you've been holding it all together on the outside while unraveling on the inside, you're in the right place. Let's breathe deep and begin.
When I hear people say that, oh, our marriage is too far gone, that, it's never going to be fixable, or I'm doing everything I can to fix it, but nothing seems to be working. I just think like I have seen too much to believe any of that nonsense. There was a time where I maybe started to believe that back, 10 plus years ago. I guess it's probably like more like 12 or 13 years ago. I forget, the time keeps passing. But there was a time where it was dark, right? I had these dark thoughts that when my husband was deployed in Afghanistan, that I had convinced myself and I believed in my heart that it would be better if he had just died over there instead of coming back and trying to figure out how to put back together our marriage, because it felt so far gone, like too far destroyed to ever be healed or repaired again. And the saddest part about this is when he was in Afghanistan, he was thinking the same thing, that his family would be better off if he were to die there and never come back, because then, we would get all of the, insurance and benefits and all that stuff, right? And like, it's just so sad what we allow ourselves to be convinced of by our flesh and the enemy when we make agreements that completely ignore the power of God. God is the God who speaks things that don't exist into existence with a word. Okay, so now I have seen too much in marriages of healing and restoration that when I hear it now, when I hear wives say, my marriage is too far gone, my marriage is too broken, I'm too broken, he's too broken, there's too much hurt, there's been too much betrayal, and on and on and on and on, that there's no way that this could be healed or fixed or whatever. I'm just like, I've seen too much at this point to even dip my toe into believing that, because I know that it's not true. Because I have seen firsthand God work miracles in restoring my marriage. I have experienced firsthand what it looks like for God to bring me to a point where I partnered with Him to be healed and to release things that I had been carrying on my shoulders. And I have seen his miracles. I have seen his provision. But not only that, now that I work with women, with wives inside High Level Wife, I have seen the restoration from God's hand. I have seen the healing from God's hand. I have seen it firsthand. And we're talking all across the spectrum of destruction in marriages, whether it's infidelity or simply getting to the place where you're just roommates, or you feel like teammates but not lovers, or you guys fight all the time, or I've seen so many ways to destroy a marriage. Maybe I could write a book about that. Like, here's all the ways you could destroy your marriage, right? No, I wouldn't write that book, because I would rather write the book on here's how to repair and restore and heal your marriage. And here's the thing, society's going to tell you that it's all on you because you are the God of your life and self is most important, right? That you speak things into existence that don't exist. Wrong. We are made in the image of God and our words do hold power, right? That does set things in motion, but manifestation is not real, right? Like, that's just Satan's attempt to counterfeit God's ability to create out of nothing, right? And manifestation is your way of self creating out of nothing, but that's not how it works. We are God's image bearers. So our words do hold power, but it's not power from ourselves. It's power from the Spirit, right? Or other spirits or our flesh, depending, right? What we want it to be, the Holy Spirit. Okay, so I'm going off on a tangent in that. But the bottom line is I have seen too much about how God restores the years the locusts have eaten to ever come into agreement that your marriage is too far gone, too broken, too far destroyed. Like, it's just not. Because what you're doing when you say that is you're coming to an agreement with the fact that God is limited. God can't. But until you come to the point of, God, I can't, but God, you can. My God can. My God is able to do this thing. Then you're going to keep spinning your wheels and trying to figure it out, or you'll just check out and you'll go your merry way, and then maybe you'll have another relationship, probably, and you'll come into the same struggles that you experienced in your current marriage. Why is that? Well, you're the common denominator. You go everywhere with yourself, right? Like, you can't get rid of yourself. You're the common denominator, and no human is perfect. And I've just seen too much of God's healing power to ever come into agreement with limiting his ability to fix and heal and restore. What the enemy means for evil, God can and will use for good. But it's not to pat yourself on the back, right? It is hands down, no way around it, from the hand of God, so that he gets the glory, not you, him. Not that, oh, look, we fixed our marriage. Absolutely not. For Zach and I, God performed a miracle. God performed a miracle. I call it the miracle shower. If you guys haven't heard this part of my story, well, let me just tell you again, or tell you for the first time. If you've already heard this part of my story, well, let me tell you again. Okay, because this is God's miracle that he did for us. You know, we were literally hanging off the edge of the brink of divorce. As far as I knew, my husband was packing up that night after the shower, and he was going to leave. We've since had conversations about this, and he said, he's like, I was terrified. You know, I don't know if I actually could have left, but the miracle happened in that shower when God reminded him that there was no way he could leave the wife of his youth and justify it, that it was a godly thing. It wasn't good in any way, shape, or form, no matter how he sliced it or tried to justify it. He knew deep down in his heart it just wasn't right. And God convicted him in that shower, and I call it the holy shower, because when he came out, he sat down next to me, and I was in disbelief. Like, I thought it was actually a cruel joke that he was playing, because I was just sitting there in the dark on the couch by myself, like, oh my gosh, like, it's over. Like, what in the world? Like, just completely, like, stunned, but also held, because I knew I had gotten to the point of full surrender to God. Actually, I think it was earlier that day. Now, timelines always tend to be off in my memory, but earlier that day, I remember standing at our youngest at the time's crib, which I guess would have been Emma. Like, she was still pretty young. Um, and just coming to that point of, God, I can't, but you can. And no matter what happens, I know that I can trust you, and you are going to take care of me and provide for me. And from that point, I think I truly believe that this is why I talk about surrender all the time, because surrender is the point that we have to get to where God can take over and step in. But we have to get to that point of surrender first. And so Zach sat down with me after the shower, and like I said, I was kind of in this place of just disbelief, but also this being held by God, that he was going to take care of me no matter what. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I trusted him. And so Zach sat down next to me, and I kind of thought it was a cruel joke. And he, like, held his arms out to hug me. And I was like, what? And he just looked at me, like, just square in the face, and just said, there's no way I can leave you. At least that's what it was in my memory. I don't know what he actually said, but those were the words in my memory that I heard. And then from there, we just, God performed that miracle, and God started to heal us, with us working in partnership with him, of being super intentional about our marriage and pouring into it, instead of just setting the cruise control, which doesn't actually work, because There is no such thing as cruise control in marriage because if you set it, your car will inevitably crash and burn at some point because we do not unintentionally grow together in marriage. We naturally grow apart. And the same is true of our faith, right? We don't accidentally grow closer to God. We don't accidentally move from babies and needing milk to needing food as we mature and grow in our faith. That doesn't happen unintentionally. That happens with intentional spiritual discipline and surrender, taking ourselves off the throne, dying to ourself, being born again, made new creations. And then, and only then, are we able to multiply our efforts? Not that we multiply our efforts. We simply have to bring the right heart, and God multiplies our efforts. Think about tithing, right? When you're tithing, what you're doing is you're saying, God, this isn't my money anyways. This is yours. And I'm going to give back to you with a cheerful heart because I know that you don't math like I math. And you're going to multiply this for your glory and the growth and expansion of your kingdom and caring for people. And, on and on and on with that list. But we have to bring with intention our resources, right? Our time, our energy, our money. What is it? Our time, talents, and treasure. Those are the things that we love to say are ours, but they're not. They belong to God. And so I would challenge you that every morning when you wake up, this is something that I've been doing. The more I do it, the more natural and automatic it becomes. But as soon as I wake up, I just say, Lord, this is your day that you have made. I will rejoice and I will be glad in it. My time is not my own today. My talents are not my own today. My treasures are not my own today. I give them all back to you. Show me how to spend them. Give me eyes to see people like you see them. Give me ears to hear as you hear. And let me be your hands and feet today. I'll tell you what, if you start your day like that, such a short, simple prayer, it's going to change the way you show up in your day. I tell my kids this all the time that time is static and fixed, but it is also relative in how we experience it. You know this, you've experienced this. If you're enjoying something, time seems to fly by. If you have kids, the more kids you have, the faster the years seem to go. But if you're doing something that you really hate, or you're with people that you really hate, or how about traffic, y'all? It makes time drag on painfully so, right? Because how we experience time is relative to our perspective. But time still moves at the same rate. It's just how we experience it is different. And so, what would it look like to intentionally offer the first fruits to the Lord in surrender from that posture, that heart posture of cheerfulness and gladness and generosity, right? I've seen too much with marriage restoration and healing God's way to be able to ever come into agreement again that your marriage is done and that it's too far gone or too destroyed. It's absolutely not. You are fully capable of doing marriage God's way. God is calling you to himself. Maybe he's calling you back to himself because you've wandered away, because you were unintentional and you were on cruise control. But he's calling you back. Or maybe he's calling, I don't know how you got to this podcast, but and why you're still listening, but maybe God is calling you to him for the first time in your life. Or maybe you've moved years in lukewarm territory of, sure, I do the good Christian things. We go to church, right? Maybe we only go to church on holidays. Maybe you are reading your Bible. Maybe you are praying every now and then. Or if, like me, all those years ago, I had developed a pattern of running to God and clinging to him when times were hard, but slowly and unintentionally fading away when times were easy, right? And I will tell you that the destruction in my marriage that I experienced, and also the restoration and the healing that I've experienced, changed that pattern abruptly for me. And from that point on, I no longer ran to God and clung to Him in hard times. I cling to Him all times. All times, right?
Hey friend, if this conversation is hitting home and you're ready to stop surviving and start rebuilding, I want to invite you into my world of coaching. Whether you're navigating disconnection in your marriage, burnout in your body, or just craving something real again, I've got free trainings, tools, and one-on-one spaces to walk with you. Head to chelsea.coach/book your call or DM me the word call and let's figure out your next best step.
And I'll tell you, it's a daily commitment because it doesn't come naturally, because we have to die to ourselves in order to do this, right? I don't want to spend my time wisely, but it's not my time to spend. It's God's time that He has given me to use for His work, for His glory, for His kingdom to be built and expanded and multiplied, right? If I had my way, I really would sit at home and eat bonbons and binge watch junk TV shows. But I know that that's not using the time that God has given me for His glory, or the support of my husband, nor the nurturing and care and guidance for my children, right? My husband doesn't force me to do anything that I do, but I do it because I love God first and foremost. And I work for the glory of God, not the praise of man. And so that allows me that no matter how I'm feeling, right? There are days when I'm frustrated. There are days when I'm angry, right? Not I'm angry. I feel angry, right? There are days when I feel frustration. And this is a side note. I was just coaching a client on this that, and actually she was the one who brought it up. And, it's such a simple thing, but our words do have power. And we speak things in, like we make agreements with things that we speak out loud. And if you're saying, I'm angry, I am angry, right? You're coming into agreement with this as if it's your identity that you're taking on, rather than a feeling, an emotion that comes in and rolls out that you can release. And so instead of saying, I am angry, how about we just say, I feel angry right now. I feel frustrated right now. I feel lonely right now. I feel scared right now. I feel whatever, right? Right now. It's not I am, right? The only identity that we have is I am daughter of the king. I am daughter of the king. You are daughter of the king. You are son of the king. You are heir to heaven. Everything else, I will say, wife and mom, are additional identities that God has given me to steward, but they're still not my core identity because those things can be taken away, right? And those things will pass away when I leave this world, when I die, when this whole body breaks down for good and I go to be with Jesus, right? To live as Christ, to die as gain. Absolutely. But we need to be careful with how we are expressive and how we express our feelings, right? When we talk about being emotionally expressive, this is a piece of confusion that sometimes new clients coming in can have. Like, how can I be emotionally expressive, right? Getting out of old belief systems without my feelings running the show, because our feelings aren't in control. But here's the thing, when you don't practice emotional expression and identification, what happens is your emotions toss you around like a ship in the waves of the sea, and you move in pure reaction rather than identifying how you're feeling, which is temporary and fleeting. And when you do that, then you are able to actually think through with the lens of the Spirit and God's word. You are able to think through how you want to decide to move forward. Yes, I said, you can have some gum. One piece is fine. real life here. Okay, so yeah, so that totally got me off track, but but this episode is to give you hope that, I heard it explained one time that the difference between knowing and believing, when you believe something, you haven't yet seen it, right? You're believing that it's true. You're believing that it's possible. But once you see it, now you can say, I know for a fact that this is possible because I've seen it with my own eyes. And I am telling you that that is exactly why God has taken me through the valleys and anointed my life for marriage, and because I know that restoration is possible. I know firsthand that healing is possible. I have experienced firsthand destruction and miracles. And so I am here to give you the hope so that you can believe that it is possible. It is possible that your marriage can be blown away in the best of ways and be completely remade. I said it on the last episode that, so many times when we're looking at marriage, we address these low level problems with low level solutions, and it's like slapping paint on a house that's burned down to the ground and there's just a few studs remaining, and then expecting that this house is going to protect us from the storms and keep us warm and keep us cool, and right, like, but that's really ridiculous if you think about it. But that's what we do. And instead, what we need to do is we need to completely tear out those last remaining studs, and we need to rebuild on the right foundation, which is God's right order of God, you, your spouse, your kids, and then your work and everything else. And then once you do that, then you can move through these phases which we've established in high level life of resetting, which is dying to yourself, and then being reborn, which is putting on the good habits, the spiritual disciplines, the intentional habits, right? Being intentional to grow your marriage, but it starts with being intentional about your faith and growing your faith and continuing to surrender daily. So then you can move into that third phase, which is to multiply. Because now you have just solved all of the low level problems, not with low level solutions, but high level solutions, which is doing marriage by God's design. And it just blows my mind that even, that I did this, that I looked around for these that I looked to anyone or anything else, like experts, all of these things that weren't walking in the way of the Lord, because God made me, God made you, God made your husband, God made my husband, and God designed marriage. So why would we go to anyone else but the creator of us in marriage? Right? Like that's just dumb. Like, if you wanted to lose weight, you wouldn't go to someone who's never worked out or focused on nutrition a day in their life. Absolutely not. You're going to go to someone who has, I mean, okay, that's a little different because, we as humans don't create everything, but you would want to go to the person who has created the system. For me back in the day, that was Jillian Michaels, of creating the systems and the nutrition that went along with it, that were proven, that worked for me, so that I believed that I could be fit until I actually did through discipline. And then I knew it was possible because I experienced it. And so if right now and here's the thing, most women that come to me, no matter how broken their marriages are, there's still the tiniest shred of belief that restoration is possible, that healing is possible, that it's not too broken, that they're not too broken. There's a tiny shred, or they're women who are coming from pretty good. pretty good marriages, right? Like by the world standards, pretty good, you know? But they have that belief that there's got to be something more than this, right? And so I am telling you to fan that belief into flame and come and hold on, come and see what I know, not for my glory, but come and see what the Lord has led me to know so that you can have your belief go from believing to knowing as well and seeing God work and seeing the miracles. Remember, our God is the God who speaks what doesn't exist into existence. Can he fix your marriage? Yeah, but he's not just going to fix your marriage. He's not just going to make it so that you don't fight. He's not just going to slap some paint on the broken down studs. No, he's going to blow the thing up and rebuild it his way, but you have to be willing and you have to be surrendered. So if you are at a point in your marriage where you have that shred of belief, you still have that shred of belief that it's not too broken, maybe it can be fixed. Maybe it can be healed. Or you're holding on to that shred of there's got to be something more. I know there's got to be something more. And God has something more ahead for us. If that is you, then you need to follow the link in the show notes and come join High Level Wife. I have a brand new blueprint resource that is going to get you dialed in, that's going to help you, that's going to show you the exact steps to be spirit led, surrendered, and set apart. It's going to show you the exact steps that you can take starting now to be intentional. But don't stop there. You can join us in High Level Wife for just $97 a month. Like, I have changed the model. I've shifted into a group, a monthly membership, because I want this to be accessible. I want this to be something that, yeah, you put a little skin in the game, because I know, as someone who has been committed to growth her whole life, who has, bought this course or bought that thing, anything free that I get, I don't have any skin in the game. So I'm not actually going to do it. I just know myself, right? And so that's why I did make these changes, but also it is an investment. And it's worth it because it's not just about you. It's not about your happiness. It's about your holiness, and not just for you, but for your husband, for your marriage, for what your kids are experiencing and seeing firsthand. So that they're going to go out and be like, I want a marriage like my parents because they did it God's way, instead of I don't want to get married, or I'm going to get married, but I don't want it to be anything like what I experienced with my parents. Because how often our kids getting to see the inner workings of going to church, and your parents are different and everything seems great, and as soon as you get in the car, they're screaming and they're fighting and they're shutting down and they're just ignoring each other, or just bitterness and resentment and just checked out and disassociation. And that's what the kids are experiencing. Our kids were too little, praise the Lord, that they didn't experience that, you know but now our kids get to see we are consistent. We are the same at home and in the van, whether we sit down or we stand up or we go for a walk or whatever. Like, we're the same because God has done a mighty work in us and performed miracles in us. And that is possible for you too. You are fully capable of getting to that point of, I can't, God, but you can, and working in partnership of a surrendered heart and a heart postured to God to completely change the trajectory of your marriage. So go follow the link, watch the resource, watch the new High Level Wife training. And there's a link right under it, a button you can push to join. To join High Level Wife. Come inside. Like, it's an amazing community. But I want you to experience it for yourself. I want you to be able to take that belief that you have, no matter how small it is, and to be able to turn it into something you know as fact.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. And remember, you do not have to become something else to be loved. You just have to return to who God already created you to be, deeply you. If this episode blessed you, share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It really does help other women find the hope and healing you just received. And don't forget, your marriage, your peace, and your joy, it's not too far gone. Nothing is too broken for God to redeem or restore. God's just getting started.